Come, let us explore the number one mistake ruining your meditation posture. Together, let us relaxingly recite. Our mind dwells in our central nervous system, and our central nervous system dwells in our physical body of flesh, blood, and bone. The advantage to this is that we could make subtle adjustments to the manner in which we sit, thus enhancing the duration and profundity of our practice of meditation. The Mahasiddhas, or great Buddhist yogis of India and Tibet, organized the sitting instructions in an outline known as the 7-point posture of Varochana. The first point concerns our legs. We could find a so-called Mexican yoga blanket online for about $20. We could fold it in such a manner as to approximate a 24 by 18-inch rectangle. We could remember to wash it weekly, for the work of sitting could be sweaty business. The majority of contemporary contemplative art depicts the Buddha sitting in a full lotus posture. But an excellent example of the effect of patriarchy's toxic elitism upon art. For few can comfortably and sustainably assume that posture or asana for 2 hours daily. The most ancient Buddhist art, however, depicts Gautama the Buddha sitting in what some would describe as merely the quarter lotus posture, wherein one leg lies flat upon the other like a sandwich. It is important, therefore, to remember that it is our hips that are ball joints, whereas our knees are merely hinge joints. Treating knees as if they were as omnidirectional as our hip joints could lead to needless and unnecessary injury. By experimenting with our hip joints, we could rest our insteps upon the blanket instead of the bony crowns of our ankles. Instead of on the bony crowns of our ankles, which could be quite painful. After a lifetime of sitting in chairs, the quarter lotus pose could feel like an impossibility. May we therefore remember not to force the posture. Once we have assumed as sustainable a version of this posture as we can, we could surrender to temporary imperfection, allowing time and gravity to work their so-called magic as they return our bodies to a semblance of the flexibility we once enjoyed as children. Many find that by setting a circular meditation cushion or zafu upon their folded yoga blanket and resting one's tush upon it enhances both the short-term comfort as well as the long-term endurance of our sitting. We could find a zafu online for about $50. The better ones are filled with buckwheat hulls and have a side zipper through which we could add more hulls once the old ones have settled. The second point concerns our hands, which we explored in great detail in the previous chapter discussing Bengali crease counting. The third point concerns our spine. With each inhalation, we could generate a vertical traction between our tush and the back of our head, as if we were pulling our head out of the warm, dark place we sometimes keep it. During each exhalation, we are wired to subtly relax this traction. The fourth point concerns our shoulder blades or scapula. With each inhalation, the vertical traction of our spine could gently open our shoulder blades in a manner reminiscent of a hungry vulture spreading its wings to protect its meal from greedy competitors. Vultures are often referenced in Buddhist teachings as a reminder of the inevitability of the various forms of impermanence, which, although inconvenient and sometimes frightening, could aid our training in relaxation and release. The fifth point concerns our head. With each inhalation, subtly dropping our chin down towards our breastbone or sternum could be the natural consequence of subtly pulling the back of our head up while simultaneously opening our shoulder blades. The sixth point concerns our mouth. With each inhalation, our jaws could subtly part, though lips remain sealed. And a subtle smile could start at the corners of our lips, ascend through the apples of our cheeks, and perch upon the crow's feet of our eyes. As the tip of our tongue gingerly touches the roof of our mouth behind our front teeth or incisors. The seventh and final point concerns our gaze. Although some insist there are supernatural benefits to be had from staring at either the sky, the horizon, or even the tip of our nose, our inhalation's kinesiological momentum of spinal traction, scapular opening, and chin dropping strongly infer that pointing our face down towards the floor or earth at a place about 1 or 2 meters before us is most natural and sustainable. Some squeeze their eyes tightly closed, while others open wide their eyes as if in surprise. Some hold their eyes at half-mast, while some their eyes gently close. May we take two. May we exercise the courage to experiment and listen to our body's ever-changing needs. Yes, this 7-point posture of Varochana could feel overwhelming. May we therefore give ourselves permission to have a learning curve. Ancient meditators observed that by subtly pulling one's gut in and up during each inhalation, one's spine, shoulders, and head correct as if automatically, gently, and organically guiding us. Doing so, we cannot help but relish the subtle release as our breath leaves through our nostrils. There are some who describe this as our microcosmic orbit. Like the archetype of Gautama, the Buddha, sitting in peace, may we too practice mindfulness and meditation. Having completed our opening lesson, it's time for us to shift gears. It is Rey Skywalker Sunday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interest as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remaining of this morning's live stream, I should say for the remainder of this morning's live stream, we're going to be playing with the latest iteration of very easy meditation practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, which means about 10% of meditation teachers strive to follow the Buddha's path of spiritual matriarchy, the path of being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, whereas the vast majority think it's a wonderful idea to stomp and snort upon Yang's path of religious patriarchy, where one is rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Therefore, it should come as little surprise that 90% of meditation teachers implore their students to practice the active concentration and the active contemplation that is only possible, made possible by relying upon discrete neural pathways, such as those found in the medial or dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Now, the problem with that is twofold. One, overworking the front bit of our brain can set ourselves up to experience the symptoms of depression. Number two, doing so triggers our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, and the polar opposite of the peace and love we hope to experience due to meditation. Ironic, is it not? Fortunately, neither the prefrontal cortex nor the amygdala constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider this. Every time we inhale, thanks to we have evolved to automatically access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy helps us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Consequently, instead of picking and choosing what to focus on, we spontaneously notice all manner of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. But what do we do with that which we notice every time we exhale, thanks to the parasympathetic nervous system divided between the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord? We are wired to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. Given the importance of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, what is the most efficient way for us to cooperate with them? Simple. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, "Watch minds play." And during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, "Relaxing." Now, if you prefer the one-syllable version, that we can replace those phrases with watch, the two verbs, watch and ease. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I check for questions approximately once every 10 minutes or so. Good morning, Jui. I will answer your question in a few minutes. All right, Joey, if you're still there. Um, Earlier this week, I recorded a live stream whose title is um, Ancient Timing Methods. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me go over here real quick. Um, let's hit this button. Okay. Ancient Timing Methods that sets meditation masters apart. This will give you a complete lesson with verbal explanation and visual techniques. And I will go into greater detail in just a minute. I gotta get my ducks in a row. Okay, so there's a method known by some as Bengali crease counting. And by playing with different finger positions, we advance our thumb during each inhalation. And that can help, especially if someone struggles with time perception, because we can still feel our bodies and we can still notice that we're inhaling. That's a fundamental perception that most of us have. And by keeping track of that, we're able to keep track of single minutes, clusters of minutes, and even an hour. And that's explored uh, during that lesson. And you can all you got to do to find it is just um, let's see here. Let me go back to button 8. All you got to do to find that is there we go. All you got to do is click on my icon and it'll take you to my channel. And all you got to do is look up the live heading, and in previous live streams, you'll find this one, Meditation Timing Method. And I hope you'll like that. And feel free to come to any live stream, or actually type if you have questions while you're watching that, type those questions in the comment area and they will make their way to me once again. Okay, so let's return to the meditation practice. And thank you for your lovely question, Joy. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Of course, questions are fun. Quick review. Every time we inhale, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. That means we don't have to pick and choose what to focus on. Instead, we can be completely open to the full spectrum of human experience, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque, being completely open to whatever randomly presents itself. Every time we exhale, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable, so we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand? So you ask a good question. Some people say it's difficult to notice how I'm noticing. You don't have to. It's already built in. You don't have to concentrate to make your heart beat. It's automatic. You don't have to concentrate to for your cells to manage the mitochondria. That is automatic. All we have to do is this. And here, I'm going to give you a quick caveat. In the final portion of the Dzogchen classic, which translates into English, well, that's known in Tibet as Dorje Sempa Namkache, or which translates into English as the vast expanse of the diamond-like mind, of the diamond-strong mind, of diamond-like strength of a mind well-trained in mindfulness and meditation. So in this profound text, towards the end, it reads, "This is not difficult. It's easy. It's difficult because it's so easy." And what that means is we're used to taking an active role in things. We're used to indulging our rigid and controlling tendencies. We have been trained to do that by the majority of people we have encountered. Only an extreme minority teach us not to be flexible and to be laid back. And like anything that we are unfamiliar with, it can feel frightening. Fear is not an indictment. We evolved the capacity to feel fear in an effort to keep our ancestors alive long enough so they could reproduce and pass on their genetic material. The problem is not the presence of fear. The problem is whether fear is a tool or whether fear is a tyrant. So how do we transcend that? How do we, as we sit here and feel, perhaps experience a little bit frustration with these things, I'll give you the easy solution. Our breath. Let me find the lungs. Here you go. Here's some lungs. Our lungs can function like a metronome. When many people study the violin or the keyboards or the guitar, they'll get a metronome, and it'll help them keep beat. Even the drummers use metronomes sometimes. They call them click tracks. And our body can treat our lungs like a metronome. When we feel our body breathing in, all we have to do is silently and mentally recite the verb watch. We're not forcing ourselves to watch. The verb watch here is not a command, it's just a label to describe the process that's already going on, whether we are in control of it or not. When we feel our body exhaling, we can use the verb ease, once again, as a label to describe what's already going on in our parasympathetic nervous system. So if all you do today is get comfortable with the idea of silently and mentally reciting the word watch, the verb watch, when you feel yourself inhale, and the verb ease, when you feel yourself exhale, you will make progress on the path. There will, and I respect, so let's see here. Mellow Yellow wrote, and I'm going to share this with everybody so I can be a good little person. Let's hit button 8. Okay, and let's go over here and tap this. Okay, so Mellow Yellow. Yes, so so there's a bunch of stuff going on. I'll do my best to answer it. Mellow Yellow, if that's so, then wouldn't it seem that our meditation never ends when we come out of the pose? Yes, so here's the funny thing. As we sit in meditation, so why sit in meditation? Our body has evolved to do many things, to stand and sit and walk and lay down and do a myriad of other things, sweeping the floors, washing the dishes, going to work, brushing our teeth, all these different things we've evolved to do. Whether you're looking at a cat or a dog or a baboon, mammals aren't always on the go. Sometimes we rest. Sometimes we lie down to sleep. Sometimes we sit to rest. And once again, we see baboon primates and dogs and cats sitting at times. So if we're going to sit, once in a while, there's a way to sit that really, really not only helps refresh our body, but helps refresh our mind. And we meditate in that way so that, let me go back to my pictures real quick. Let's see. Oh, darn it. Well, that's weird. Oh, okay, that's on me. Sorry, guys. Let me fix this real quick. Go back to window capture and go back to studio. Okay, so quit like a bunny. I'm going to tap button 9. Well, let's go back. So there are times when it's convenient to silently and mentally play with the labels in harmony with our breathing. Great. There's other times when it doesn't work out that way. There's times when it's, time to talk on the phone or say hi to a neighbor or pet a cat or play fetch with a dog. And these things are wonderful. The highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. When our love flows from the centered spontaneity that is driven, that is supported by a practice of mindfulness and meditation, it's perfectly appropriate for us to stop talking to ourselves and stop playing labels and doing all kinds of wonderful things, to be considerate to our neighbors or our partner or our roommate or our children or our pets. Let's see here, Dweebert, is as in labeling the way as specifically from the list. So, as I mentioned previously, it's a skill. The more you play with the labels watch and ease, the easier it is to use them. Play with them for an hour once every 12 hours. Play with them every time you come to class, and within a week or two, you might even find you do it in your sleep occasionally or in a dream occasionally. The other day, my partner and I were watching a YouTube video, and the person speaking on the video was using some very dishonest logical fallacies. And as someone with autism, when someone does that, it's very, very distressing. So as they were yammering on deceitfully, I was, silently and mentally reciting, watch, ease. And it helped me to cope with all the eccentricities of autism that can be deeply triggered by that sort of a situation. It helped me to feel those things without being controlled by those things, which is very, very nice. So let's continue. Presence in the now, there is fear, which I'm still working with. So our job, contrary to the ravings of a program or a coaching session or a book, the great Buddhist reformer known in Pakistan as Prahe Vajra and known in Tibet as Gaurav Dorje, same person, taught that fear is not something to be gotten rid of. Peace is not something to chase. Both peace and fear. So as we relax into our exhalation, the peace or fear we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could both melt into the simplicity of just emotion. Now, yes, some emotions are pleasurable and some are painful, some are interesting and some are boring. But the fact is, feeling an emotion is not an indictment. Now, being a slave to that emotion is. So what's the difference? Well, let's pretend that as you relax into your exhalation, whatever hate or love you might have noticed during your inhalation could feel as if they were melting into the simplicity of simply intention. So to feel hate is not a problem. To act on hate, to say cruel, hurtful things, or do violent things, that is unsustainable. But if we notice the emotion, even the ugly, scary ones as we breathe in, and relax as we breathe out, then the great irony is the scary, scary, uncomfortable emotion actually trains us on the path of awareness and release. And here's the funny thing. The more we notice and release whatever turbulent emotions are racking our bodies, the less apt we are to be controlled by them. So let's pretend we were annoyed by something and we just ignored the annoyance. Then there's a very big chance we might lose our temper. However, if we are aware of our annoyance as we breathe in and relax as best we can as we breathe out, and we repeat that breath after breath, eventually that emotion will go the way of impermanence. But as a fringe benefit, we will have strengthened our mastery of the mindfulness and meditation that are the birthright of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. I hope that helps. And now, I'm going to grab a sip of water. Let's continue. By the way, these are marvelous questions. Thank you very much. Or if I want to do a very bad imitation, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's return to Jui's questions. Jui, it's a very good question. So I'm going to tap button 8. So, um, it's difficult to get into the word, what the meaning of the word and what it really feels like to be in this state. So there are more bad teachers than good teachers, and there are more teachers that insist, that confuse people into confusing concentration and mindfulness. So let's tap button 9 and take a closer look at that, if that's okay with you. So a foolish teacher will say mindfulness is concentrating or focusing on the here and now. Well, concentration takes place in the medial prefrontal cortex. It can exhaust the front of our brain, making us prone to the symptoms of depression, and trigger our amygdala, which is the seat of anxiety and aggression. However, when we rely upon our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems to just watch and ease, to just notice and relax, passively, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, sloppy, messy, just like a child trying to eat spaghetti. What happens is our amygdala gets calmed and our anterior cingulate gyrus, the seat of empathy, is stimulated. So this messy, vulnerable, passive, visceral, random, fleeting approach to noticing is more efficient than being rigid and controlling the way we're taught to. When we notice our tendencies to be rigid and controlling, that's not an indictment. That's good news. Every time we notice a bad habit, that means that bad habit can't act like a ninja sneaking around behind the scenes. The lights are on and the ninja is exposed, and we are able to dodge the villain. In this case, it's the villain of our own conditioning. So does that mean that the part of our brain is evil? No. What it means is any tool can be used or abused. The story of Jack the Ripper, the tale of Jack the Ripper, shows us that surgical implements can be used to heal or to murder. So when this part of our brain is in the driver's seat, when it's a tyrant, it makes us miserable. When it's simply a tool used by other parts of our brain, it works out very well. You see, the more we practice mindfulness and meditation in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, the more our choices and utterances and deeds begin to flow from love's centered spontaneity. And so that interplay between our sympathetic nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system, and our anterior cingulate gyrus is what the ancients referred to as our Buddha nature, our capacity to notice and relax and love. And when our choices and utterances and deeds flow from these three, life works out very well, and we can think and we can concentrate temporarily and reason temporarily with great skill and lightning-like speed and amazing insight. But when these are in disharmony with these, life becomes very, very, very unpleasant. Consider this. I'd like to continue this for a moment. In our underbrain, and I don't have a pretty picture of this, in our underbrain, there are not one but two reward systems. One system rewards for competition with very, very short-term pleasure. That's necessary for reproduction. The other system rewards for cooperation with long-term feelings of fulfillment. What some rock stars or movie stars or billionaires discover is that once they have all the money and power to indulge their every whim, they might experience short-term pleasure, but they don't experience fulfillment. Fulfillment only comes from cooperation, not from exploitation, but from cooperation. So our experience of fulfillment, or let me rephrase it this way, the key that unlocks the vault to our fulfillment is our awareness and release. And now, quick like a bunny, I'm going to check for a question from Mellow Yellow. Going to hopefully touch the right button in the right sequence. And Mellow Yellow, I think there's another one here. There we go. Well said, Mellow Yellow. Well said. And sometimes, so as Mellow Yellow insightfully mentioned, when behaviors come to the light of awareness, they lessen the grip. Yes. And sometimes that grip is, when I was a child, I went on a cruise to Alaska during the summer, and I got to see glaciers melting and crashing violently into the ocean. So sometimes we have a dramatic event. Other times it's very, 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 very subtle. Both are good. Both are good. So we're almost out of time, so let's do a little bit more meditation. So before I say goodbye, I just want to remind everybody, especially Jui, that I get to push the right button in the right sequence. Here we go. That when they get a chance, maybe in 12 hours, they can watch this live stream and answer their original question. And once again, you can find it by poking around my channel. And if you can't find it, just type me a note in one of the comment areas on one of my videos, and I'll send you the link. In fact, what I can do right now, if I pull my head out of my armpit, I can capture the link, and I can go over here and hit, hey, whoopsie, let's go over here first. I want to learn from my mistakes. Let's go to window capture. Let's go to studio. Let's go over here. And let's see. Let's tap this. Paste. And boom. Okay, so this is the link to the video I told you about, Jue. And so you can click it right now and save it to your watch later list on YouTube. And that might make your life a little bit easier. Who knows? You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class as well as group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.